lot of people are building up their goals for the year, 2024, going to hit these big revenue goals. But a lot of people either made these goals, one, without speaking with customers, and two, without actually analyzing their data of what worked and what didn't work. So we had a recent coaching call this week where I helped a lot of my students go through what they did last year that worked well, what they didn't do well, and use on all that data to figure out what they're going to do this year. The first thing is simplicity scales. Last year, our clients generated about 33 and a half million in revenue in just that calendar year. And I can't think of any case where people who grew by doing more. If they didn't have to do more. Some did because they chose to, but in most cases, 9 out of 10, they did less. And that doesn't mean you're working less. That just means taking an inventory of all the things that you're doing to make money and figuring out what things actually work and what things have the leverage and just only focusing on that. So I'm going to talk about two clients, one Greg, one Kadisha, and use them as examples. I'm going to keep some of the sensitive information out because I don't want to give you too much of their business model so you could go copy, but I think it's important to learn about what they did. So the first person, Kadisha, we'll talk about her. When she joined, she said she joined us last February and she hit her biggest Black Friday in the history of her business. And then also the biggest month in the history of her business in December. While most people took their foot off the gas, she had her biggest month. I think it was 65 or $68,000. Last year when she joined, her biggest month was $15,700 before she joined us. But she said she spent $15,700 to make that. So she made revenue, had no profit. It's one problem, right? We're not in the business of curating screenshots. We actually want to make money so we could live an abundant life. The second problem is she was hella busy doing trade shows, retail, vendors, applying for grants, trying to do a whole bunch of stuff to sell products. So with her, when she joined, her average month was like 5 to 10K. And she got up to now where she's doing 60K consistently, right? Month after month, she's hitting consistent months of 60K plus. And she said yesterday, it's so wild that she did this because she was outside in December. She went on vacation in the Caribbean. She celebrated her birthday for a week. Obviously, there's Christmas, and she made more money ever in the history of her brand while doing way less work. How is that possible? The first thing we did with her, what I do with all my clients, but specifically with her, is you got to realize the 80-20 principle. 80% of your outcome is going to come from pretty much 20% of anything. That's the general rule in life. It is also true with your products. She was selling about 30 to 40 products. And we ran the numbers and we were like, all right, what's actually generating most of your sales? We go through this exercise with all of our clients, and a couple of things happen. One, the thing that they think is generating the sales may or may not be what the numbers actually say. Two, which is the wildest part, the top 3 or 5 products that are generating the sales typically aren't the 3 or 4, 5 products you see when you first land on the website. So typically you got to go looking for the best sellers versus just making it right there. And we know only 50% of people who land on a website actually scroll past the first screen. So that was one, realizing what people want and making it really easy and available for them. And then two, really just getting rid of everything else. It was a hard concept, and I push a lot of people to get rid of a lot of their products. And it's a good thing for a few reasons. Some are obvious, some are not so obvious. One, you identify what 3 or 5 products people need, really just 1 to 3. You really only need 4 products to build $1 million business. Each individual product should be standing on its own $25,000 to $150,000 in sales per month. So really you could build $1 million business off one product, but it's safe to say if you get 4 products at $30 a pop, and you're doing 30 sales of each of those products, you're at 100,000 per month business, and you're at $1 million business. So we had to find which 1 or 2 products people really wanted, and it's interesting because the data showed that this one product was not generating the majority of the sales, but this one product was always sold out. And so the data doesn't always tell you the truth. It gives you the information, but you need to learn how to interpret the data. And so just looking at your Shopify data and being like, oh, this product made most of my sales, this product didn't make a lot of my sales, is not really all there is to it. So we started talking about how fast do you get these products and how often are these products in stock? And we realized this one product, even though it wasn't generating the majority of her sales, it was always sold out. And so that means, very simply, if things are always sold out, people always want it. And so we started drilling down like why she wasn't keeping more of this in stock, etc. What she said, and which most people say, is that really they're trying to focus on selling the other stuff that they have in stock because they have tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory tied up in this other product. But a really good lesson I learned from a pastor was, I heard this analogy in a sermon he was preaching, was if you have a freshman athlete that's playing on the varsity basketball team, but they're only getting a C in math, you don't focus on investing in a math tutor to get his C up to a B. You focus on getting that kid a basketball coach and exploring and pushing and perfecting the thing that he's already good at, not trying to bring him up from mediocre to a little bit more than mediocre. And so that's the concept a lot of ecom founders have and business owners in general, where you spend a lot of money on things and you have the sunken cost fallacy, where instead of just walking away from the bad investment, you double down on it. So with her, instead of having focusing on this one product that she kept selling out of, she was focused on trying to sell the things and move the things that nobody else wanted. And that kept her spread thin. Because what happened was, if let's say you have 30 products, that means 29 of the 30 posting you post products on social no one's really interested in. And then when that one product comes around, that's when people buy. You notice a spike in sales. When you're sending out emails, when you're creating ad creatives, right? You have to have new photo shoots and new product shoots, new model shoots on all your 30 products versus just having one. It creates a lot of complexity in all areas of your business. So we figured out the product, figured out why it was always sold out, and invested in getting more. And literally over 90 days, she went from 10-ish thousand a month to 60,000 by literally just keeping this product in stock. So she went from buying 50 to now, hundreds, possibly even thousands per order. And so without giving too much of her business secret, she found one hit record and now she's in a space to find a second hit record. So now when people come for the first thing, she knows what other two or three things people also want that she can grow her revenue from. So that's the first thing, simplicity in the products that you offer. There are three pillars to building a seven-figure business, especially an e-com brand. So marketing, operations, and finances. If you think of it as a triangle, right? Marketing, operations, finances. In the middle, your choices. So by simplifying your product suite, not only is marketing easier, because I just told you, you don't have to have a bunch of photo shoots. You don't have to flood your timeline with products that nobody wants. Your ads are easier because people see the thing that they want and come to your site, and they don't have to go scrolling through your website through 30 other products to find the one thing they wanted. So your conversion rates go up. Operationally, it's easier too because your fulfillment team are only fulfilling one type of product. So your boxing, your shipping material, there are less errors when you're only doing one thing versus trying to ship out 30 things all throughout the day. It's easier to keep track of inventory because you have fewer things in your warehouse to keep track of versus 30 products all spread out throughout your warehouse. And then finances, it's easier because instead of buying 50 or 100 minimum orders across 30 different vendors or 30 different products, now you're spending 500, 1,000 per order, or you're buying 500 to 1,000 things per order. So you have better relationships with one vendor and you could get better manufacturing costs. So all these reasons make running other things operationally. You have fewer things to answer for customer service, fewer things for your customer support team to learn how to answer questions for. So she bought into the fact that she needed one product. Then she always also bought into the fact that she needed to only focus on one channel. So she pulled out of retail, pulled out of pop-up shops, all these other things that were taking a lot of her time, and just focus on doubling down on her marketing channel, which for her is Facebook and Instagram. And then we simplified her complex funnels. She had a bunch of complex funnels happening. And this was something that I learned while scaling my brand, right? We did about a $500,000 with this one product before bringing on a second product. And still at the time of our sale, when we were doing 6 figures a month, 80% of our sales came from our one SKU. It was just bundled or together with other products. And I also decided to pull out of retail because the amount of energy it took to launch versus the amount of return I was getting for that activity, it wasn't worth it. And so I shared that story with her. And she looked at her time and did the same thing. So she pulled out of retail. So she had one marketing channel and she simplified her ads, and she has now one main marketing funnel. So one main marketing funnel to sell on one main marketing channel to sell one main product, and that has 10 extra business. So what that means is she has a lot more free time, because all the other time she was taking to learn Amazon, learn TikTok, learn Pinterest, learn Google ads, learn TikTok ads. She now has that back to just make this product the best product ever and make exceptional content. The beautiful thing about this is she has a full-time job. So not only is she not working a lot by itself, she has a 9 to 5. She only has a few hours a day, and her side business is making $60,000 plus per month. That is wild. And so for someone like her, I thought it was a good example because she's not doing it full time, and she's working far less than she was last year before working with us, and she's making 10 times the money. And so simplicity for her was key. We're going to go jump over on Greg now. Greg also joined, I believe, in October, a couple of weeks before Black Friday. We only had a few weeks to prep for it. And he told me that he had the biggest Black Friday in the history of his brand. He's been around for 5 or 6 years. The key with that was he joined while he was busy, so he didn't have a lot of time to confuse and complicate things. We only had a few weeks to just focus on the high leverage activity stuff he was doing. So with him, what he did was we focused on one or two things to focus on. No complex discounts, no complex funnels. We just made one funnel, and we did a look at the data and figured out what products do people want the most, what products sell out the fastest, and what products generate the most amount of sales. And we led with that in the promotion. Very simple things. It's like not rocket science. Figure out what people want, show them more of that, create a simple offer that people understand and doesn't create confusion, and lead with that. So with him now, they had an assumption that they do custom made stuff and non-custom things, and they started with the custom stuff, and they felt like that was the nature of their business. They have over 100 pieces. They're in the accessory space. And what happened with him was we realized too that only 3 to 5 products were generating the majority of their sales. And not only that, but they also had a couple of products that, even though they weren't generating the majority of the sales, those were always sold out. And for whatever reason, they never kept those in stock because they felt like once it dropped, it sold out and it was on to the new thing. They were focusing on the 95 other products that they had that they were trying to sell. So he trusted me enough to shift, instead of focusing on the 95 that nobody wanted, just focusing on the 3 to 5 that everyone wanted. And by selling more of that, the profit that you make there, because you can negotiate better terms, get better margins, the profit that you make there will make up for the 95 other things that you have in stock and inventory. And for a separate video, we have a really cool strategy. We have 3 proven strategies to get rid of the stuff that nobody wants so you can recoup your money. And so these two people really just built the biggest business, had the biggest months in their business, in the history of their business. One's been around for 5 to 6 years. I think the other one's been around for 4 to 5 years, by actually doing less, focusing on selling less products and doing less work, having one funnel with one ad mechanism. And so part of the thing that we help people do when they join is figuring out what to simplify and what to focus on. And so if you are watching this video and you're trying to make plans for 2024, a lot of the times we make our plans by adding more to our plate. I need to do this. I need to add this channel. I need to launch more products. I see other people doing these things, so I need to do it. I want to challenge that belief. Try to focus on what one or two things that you're doing is actually generating the most of your results, and get rid of everything else. Warren Buffett's business associate once said, someone was asking him for advice on how to be successful, I believe his pilot in his jet, and he asked him to write down his top 5 priorities, not worry about 3, 4, and 5 until he finished 1 and 2, and not focus on 2 until he finished 1. And that's the problem with a lot of our lists. The lists are long as hell. The to-do lists and the projects and the channels and all the other things are so long, and we neglect the one thing that we're doing well, or we never do anything well because we're spread so thin. So I want to challenge you to figure out what 1 or 2 things max you can do to grow your business, the one most important thing you could do every day, and only focus on that. So for some of us, like for me, it could be creating content. For others, it could be speaking with customers. For others, it could be writing an email or creating new ads. For others, it could be picking up the phone and following up on old leads. Whatever it is for you, focus on that and only do that. The other thing is only make plans in quarters because life happens, things change. That one thing that you do for Q1 may be different for Q3. So it may start off by creating one piece of content, put one YouTube video up every week. Q3, you may no longer need to do that because you've become perfect or you've developed more muscle memory in that. And so you no longer need to devote that much energy, or your business may change. Now you may have a team. And so Q3, your one thing you may need to do is to devote 1 to 2 hours per week to develop people in your organization so you could buy back your time. So only make your plan for the quarter, assess it monthly and weekly, and to make sure you're hitting it. And don't focus on the results, focus on the inputs. So it's unrealistic for me to say I want to make $1 million. It's more realistic for me to say, all right, I have $1,000 product. I need to sell 1,000 of these $1,000 products to make 1 million. I need to get 100 people to my website every day to make these sales. And when I make content, I get reach and more people come to my site. So if I want to make $1 million, I need to start by looking at the inputs, which is create content, send emails, create content, launch new ads, and just focus on that regardless of the results, because the results will come in time, right? And so those are some of the things I just want to talk to you about, just about hitting your goals. Like, take away, don't add. Less is way more powerful than more. And try to, before you figure out what you want to do, analyze the data and see what things actually led to the results that were meaningful last year. Do more of that. Analyze the data and figure out which things were a waste of time, and just completely get rid of that until you get perfect or a lot better on the one or two things. So that's it for this video lesson. Remember to subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram, and drop your comments below. I know this is not all inclusive to help support you, but it's supposed to guide you in the direction. So drop your comments below, and I'll meet you in the comments and give any clarity to things that you may be thinking about implementing this strategy into your business. Peace.